Welcome back to another Alvado video. In today's video, we're going to be watching a game played by Liquid Robin Songs. It's impressive he's still able to excel at the game of TFT at the crisp age of 59 years old. So he's playing in the new patch. This was his very first game of the day of the new patch, patch 13.13C or something like that, I don't know, the C patch. Riot ended up getting hacked, so they're not able to launch, a full patch, so they had to release a C patch. But either way, there's still enough changes to shake up the meta in a massive, massive way. And we're going to try and figure out exactly how the meta is changing, and we're going to learn a lot from this video to try and figure out exactly what you can do to take advantage of the new meta. Okay, so let's get into this game here. He starts off with a rod, and we can see his first augment. Oxforce, Clear Mind, or Portable Forge. Now he got dropped this Zoe, and he had a Poppy. You can see, taking a second here to really figure out what he wants to do. Pretty sure he's considering Portable Forge or Clear Mind, but if you do not know, a lot of the items from Portable Forge recently just got nerfed. And considering he had this Zoe and this Poppy, all he needed was either one Annie or one Lulu to get 3 Gadgettine in, and that's exactly what he did. He's able to get a Nasus 2 and a Lulu. He has 3 Gadgettine, and he has his, he's clear minding, right? You can't have any units on your bench when you have clear mind. So he's going to, clear mind is definitely like a weird augment where you have to really understand what your strongest board is at all times with only seeing one shop, and you cannot hold any units. We can see that he chooses to replace the Nasus with this Lee Sin because he thinks it's stronger. I don't think it's actually stronger, but he was down to put it in because they did just buff Lee Sin. And, the thing that a lot of these high-level players have the reason why these high-level players often climb in ranks is their willingness to learn the game. I mean, it's pretty clear to see that a Nasus 2, just based off of his HP alone, had way more HP than this Lee Sin, and realistically, 2 Heart is not making that much of a difference. So even though the Nasus wasn't giving any traits, he's easily a stronger unit than this Lee Sin, but he's down to just play units that recently got buffed to try and figure out how much stronger they are. And that way he learns, he's not only playing the game to try and win, but he's also playing the game to try and understand it at a deeper level. So the other items that he got dropped was Rod and Chain. And even though he's last pick, he's able to get a 3-cost belt and Sunfire, never a bad option. So he's able to slam Sunfire there. He has this Sunfire on this Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath is easily one of the best units that you can just throw into any board, especially on stage 2. The threat 3-cost units are essentially like, they're basically like 3.5 cost. Both Remus and Cho'Gath have more than 1,000 HP at 1 star. Not only do they have such a high health pool, but Cho'Gath has built-in MR, passive MR, and Remus has passive 8 armor. So not only do they have more health, they have more effective HP depending on which type of damage you're going against. They're really strong units to just splash into your board. Now he does end up selling the Cho'Gath because he wants to make 30 gold. And he's trying to figure out exactly what his strongest board here, what his board is here, and he chooses to just buy this Lux and put it in the corner. You can see how Lux is in the corner there. And it's because he knew he had the chances of fighting the Talon player, which he did end up fighting, and he wanted to just make sure that his Zoe was as safe as possible. So the best unit to buy in that situation was just any backline unit to guarantee that the Zoe wasn't going to get targeted by the Talon, because he could sandwich the Zoe in between 2 other backline units. So he gets dropped some more AP items. He gets dropped a tier, and he gets dropped enough components to make this Spark. Goes ahead and makes Spark. He has double Zoe on his board. The reason why he has double Zoe is that it's a really effective strategy to play 2 of the same unit when you have Clear Mind, because then you actually have, you know, some amount of chance to hit a 2-star of whatever unit you're playing on your board. Because since you can't hold any units on your bench, you really need to make sure you increase the odds of hitting, you know, stronger units, and that's exactly what happens here. He's able to, after playing 2 Zoes, which was his strongest board in the previous turn, and now he's able to natural Zoe 2, and then he finds another Cho'Gath, he puts that in. Now he's doing a lot of scouting here, and he's trying to feel out the lobby. He's trying to understand exactly what everyone's playing, and what he notices is that he sees a lot of players who have BT and Titans, Bloodthirster and Titan's Resolve. Now, the reasoning behind that is that I think a lot of people understand how flexible those items can be in a meta like this. Viego did get nerfed, but only very slightly, so Viego is still a strong 4-cost carry to play around in this meta. And who else holds Titans and BT really well? Bel'Veth just got buffed, so Bel'Veth can hold Titans BT. Zed just got buffed. Zed is, you know, BT is not the best option on Zed, but it is an option, and it pairs really well with Titans in the first place. So he scouted, you know, like 4 or 5 people in the lobby, and he's noticed that 3 people out of, you know, the entirety of the lobby all had BT and Titans built. Now I think it's more so because a lot of people were just hard forcing Viego, but this is just some of the things that he was thinking about when he was, you know, trying to understand what other people were playing. You know, even though that this is a lobby full of high-level players, not even, you know, you can't know exactly what is the strongest at every stage of the game, especially when a new patch comes out. So other people are also trying to figure out what's strong. And after getting Jeweled Lotus as his second augment, he chooses Jeweled Lotus because it's a really strong augment to, you know, play flexibly in. He does want to play around AP, but of course he can play AD with Jeweled Lotus because it also allows his, you know, AD units abilities to crit, not just his AP units. And you can see he's making effective use out of that here after he gets this Bel'Veth with Glove off of the carousel. Now look at the item that he has on this Bel'Veth, Heartbreaker. When you have Jeweled Lotus in previous sets, you always wanted IE when you had Jeweled Lotus, especially because, you know, you were always playing around AP with Jeweled Lotus because Jeweled Lotus made your AP units abilities crit. You always wanted IE to give you, you know, the bonus crit. But in this set, when they have, you know, they reworked how crit works and how IE works. So the best items that you can put on units now when you have Jeweled Lotus are these glove items. So you can see Guardbreaker, QSS, and Hodge. Those are essentially the IEs of this set when you're playing around Jeweled Lotus. They all give you a numerous amount of damage bonus because they give you so much more crit because it's built with a glove, and Guardbreaker is easily one of the strongest ones because it already gives you the initial damage bonus, and then of course if you're attacking a shield, then it gives you that much more of a damage bonus. Heartbreaker is very comparable to Giant Slayer, but the thing is that Giant Slayer is built with a bow and a sword. It's not built with a glove, so it doesn't give you the extra crit. So Guardbreaker is easily one of the best options that you can build in spots where you're trying to play around crit-based carries. Okay, now let's see what he goes for his final augment of the game. He's trying, you know, you can see how his board is kind of formulated. It's formulated into this like vertical threat board. So he really wants to risk it for the biscuit and go for threat level maximum. So he rerolls there. He doesn't end up getting it. He's considering going for Knife's Edge because he's playing around Bel'Veth, but he has way too many units that aren't holding items that would make so much good use out of makeshift armor, so he ends up just going for makeshift armor. When you're playing around Clear Mind, there's this fine line of understanding exactly at what point in time you should be rolling and what point in time you should be sitting. And you can see that his board has 2 Vel'Kozes and 2 Cho'Gaths, and he's level 8. And he has enough gold where he can roll a decent amount and not go below a certain threshold to relinquish his chances of going level 9. So he rolls there, he finds a Mordekaiser and he finds a Vel'Koz too, and then he finds a Bel'Veth pair. He sells every unit that he has that he doesn't want on his board. He puts both Bel'Veths on the board, and then he actually gives the blue buff to this Bel'Veth. Now, blue buff on Bel'Veth is not the worst item. It's kind of like a makeshift Ginsu's, because Bel'Veth gains stacking attack speed every single time she casts. And she has a really low mana pool, so using blue buff means that I think it only is like 2 autos to cast. So every 2 autos she's casting, she's gaining attack speed. And one of the buffs that Bel'Veth just recently got in this patch is that they made her cast a lot stronger. They increase the damage that her cast, you know, the auto attacks that she does from her cast by 50%. So they're going to be doing a lot more damage, and I guess he thinks that blue buff was the best, or Bel'Veth was the best unit to hold blue buff at that time. You might consider putting blue buff on, you know, Mordekaiser or Aesol. I don't think he had Aesol in that spot yet, but you could put blue buff on Mordekaiser, but you have to remember that he has makeshift armor. So he wants to commit 3 items to this Rammus, and then he wants to commit 3 items to his carry. And it just doesn't, you know, it's not the most logical thing to do to give this Mordekaiser a blue buff when you're losing out on gaining the extra AD and, I mean, the extra armor and MR. These fights are probably pretty hard to watch. Bel'Veth just dashing every which way, and, you know, Vel'Koz lasers going across the screen, Mordekaiser building, Aesol meteors, Kogath beams, all that. But hopefully you can still kind of understand exactly what is going on that is making him win these fights. And he did this last round on the PvE, and he's going to do it again, where he chooses to wait and grab all the orbs. That's because he has clear mind. And if you grab all the orbs, there's a chance that even blue orbs have units in them. And sometimes you want the units in those orbs. So it's a good option to choose to not pick up the orbs on PvE rounds if you have clear mind, so that you have the highest chances of getting the units, or of seeing all of the units at one instance, and you can make decisions whether or not you want to sell them or find more of those units, you know, in the turn after. You're not losing out on value from makeshift armor. I mean, from clear mind. Now, even though he was playing it where he was, you know, maximizing the value from clear mind, you can see he's already level 9, so he's now holding on to units because, you know, you can't reach level 10. There's no way of getting level up. And after he hits level 9, he rolls down a bit, and he ends up finding 2 Fiddlesticks and a Bel'Veth 2. And he's really trying to understand exactly what he needs to do to win this lobby. Now you can see he scouted a couple times there. He actually just fought up against a Yuumi player. Yuumi is one of the comps that I think is going to be pretty strong in the upcoming meta. Now, it's not going to be the Yuumi comp that we know, that we've seen before, the mascot Yuumi. I think it's definitely going to be the Yuumi comp that China has popularized, the one where you reroll Yuumi with Rel and Nyla and then the supers. So it's pretty similar to the mascot one, because of course you're still rerolling Yuumi, but you know, it's not going to be as oppressive as the previous iteration of mascot Yuumi was. So if you do not know, Yuumi also got a buff. Lee Sin got a buff. I talked about that earlier. He had played him on one of his boards in the early game. And Rel got a buff. So those 3 units is exactly why I think the Chinese comp, the Chinese Yuumi comp, is going to make an emergence in this meta, because you could already play the Yuumi comp in the previous patch. I've seen some players, you know, find success with that build. And they buffed 3 of the units in the comp, so yeah, that comp might take off. Now, this guy that he's playing up against, that's Yumi 3, but he's playing like a weird version where he's just playing like 4 hearts. He's playing like the normal way that you would play around hearts, but instead of carrying Soraka, he's carrying a Yumi 3. There's now 5 players in the lobby. After rolling down some more, he was able to find a Janna and a Mordekaiser pair. And you can see that even when he has units like Fiddlesticks and Vel'Koz, which he can, and Mordekaiser, which he could easily just put in these Janna hexes, and like Mordekaiser would walk up, Fiddlesticks would just sit there, Vel'Koz would benefit from the windy weather. He doesn't even want to put them in the wind. Because I say this, you know, I make this point very clear, but ruining your positioning oftentimes is not worth greeting the windy weather Janna hexes. He really wants this Fiddlesticks to be in the front line so that it can take damage and it can cast early on in the fight, so it can, you know, swing the fight in a massive way. He doesn't care about the extra AD and AP that it gets, because most of the time, if this Fiddlesticks is in the, you know, in the weather, then it makes your front line significantly weaker, and it makes it so that it's easier for your opponent to get through your front line, and then it's easier for their comp to, you know, stay under control, so that they can end up finishing your board after, you know, units like Diego or this Leona like heal up or whatnot. So we're now in a top 2 situation. It's him against this Yumi player. There's not really much more he can roll for. He can get a Mordekaiser too, but he's just going to spend the entirety of the turn figuring out his positioning. Now that he has, you know, this Fiddlesticks 2 in the front line, he's down to put a second Fiddlesticks in the back line as just kind of like an insurance policy. He has like the insane fiddle in the front, and then he has his insurance policy Fiddlesticks in the back. And yeah, he's able to actually win a game with vertical threats without even playing threat level maximum, and that is because, you know, Bel'Veth just got buffed, Aesol just got buffed, a lot of the other strong comps that would contest, you know, a win in this spot got nerfed, and, you know, he's able to understand exactly what he needs to do to convert his spot into a win based on all the new changes. Now, hopefully you learned something from this video. There's going to be a lot more to learn based on the new patch. I'll probably do some more videos of more emergent comps. And yeah, like the video if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.